All right, I'm throwing these on the table, as you said, way too early, which means we can be as ridiculous as we want to. So many things can happen from now up until the start of the season. We've got spring practices. We're going to find out who's really hot. I've got three, each for a different category here. Carson Beck is my no-brainer, the guy who is going to be the favorite coming in. Might not actually end up winning it, but ends up going to the podium. Your CJ Stroud, if you will, that is going to be talked about, and then maybe just ends up coming in second. But if there is a guy that makes the most sense at this point to win it, it's going to be Carson Beck. We get made fun of for glazing the guy, but the Georgia quarterback looked really good for a lot of the most important games that they had last year for a guy in his first year starting. He is an older player than people realize. He's experienced. He's been around national championship winning teams. And I think that this upcoming year, he's going to take an even further step in his progression of becoming an elite player in college football. I mean, heck, he was so good this past year. Some might have argued he would have been the fourth guy or fifth guy that didn't get invited. And he could have been in that convo if it wasn't for the way that he didn't play poorly in the SEC championship game, but if he hadn't finished the season a little stronger, might have been a little bit of a different conversation. The one that you're claiming is your sleeper pick, I think is this could be the guy who has a really crazy start to the season that no one's really talking about, Jaxson Dart from Ole Miss. I have been all in on Jaxson Dart. I had people on Twitter who were giving me shit saying that he was going to even start this past year. He has all the tools and the makings of being a really good college quarterback and then a guy who plays well in the NFL. I think that he throws on the run. He's built to work effectively in this Ole Miss offense. And I think the way that this team has been bolstered through the transfer portal, he is in a position to lead them to the playoff and to win a game or two in the college football playoff that is going to help the cause for him winning the Heisman. And then the last one, the long shot, unexpected guy, and then I'll let you throw yours in here. The one that I think that there's always one guy that it's like, where did this guy come from? Avery Johnson from Kansas State.
Oh, my God.
Was that also yours?
I hate you.
Okay. My quick reasoning, and then I'll let you go. The guy's unbelievable. He's so electric. He's so goddamn electric.
And because he's going to be in the Big 12, he's going to put up ungodly stats in the Big 12.
Yes.
Okay, and then all of a sudden, and you know who else is going to do it too?
Who?
You know who else is going to put up ungodly stats? Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody's going to be like, oh, shit, Shedeur Sanders threw for 40 touchdowns. You're playing a crappy conference.
With no defense.
Good.
With no defense. Now, I think that Kansas State's winning the conference. We already said this.
I'm not going there. Utah still exists. Cam Rising.
He's not winning the Heisman. I like them to win the conference, to go to the playoff, and for Avery Johnson to just blast his way through the conference as they've gotten weaker and weaker every single year. The guy is electric. He's going to rush for 10-plus touchdowns, and he's going to throw for 30-plus. I think he checks every box for just the crazy guy that comes out of nowhere that every week we're going to be like, did you just see what Avery Johnson did? Did you just see what this guy did? He is so freaking fun to watch, and I'm hoping that he lives up to the expectations.
All right. I'm gonna give you a couple of mine.
Okay.
And I got to admit, I'm going to give you one that where I want to talk about that I know that you don't want to. All right. Joe, number one, I'm going to put Will Howard in that conversation. I'm going to put him in the conversation because they're going to be undefeated. I think he's going to throw for 30, 35 touchdowns. Okay, he threw 24 last year. He's going to have so many more dudes around him, and he's going to have Chip. He's going to run the football. Look, there's going to be situations where, Joe, I could definitely see a scenario where he's got double-digit rushing touchdowns at the end of the year because I think they don't play a tough enough schedule. I think they're going to be completely loaded. I will put him outside looking in, even though, Joe, did you know that he's third in the Heisman Trophy odds as of right now?
Which is stupid.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Can I tell you why it's not? I think you're way too low on him.
He's J.J. McCarthy.
And J.J. McCarthy was Joe, hold on. First off, don't you dare compare him to J.J. McCarthy when he's got lesser talent around him, and he would have completed some of those passes that McCarthy didn't. By the way, did you see this outright dog shit on Twitter that people are saying that J.J. McCarthy, they're hearing from NFL people, he's a top 5 pick? If J.J. McCarthy is a top 5 pick, I will eat a hat.
They are that is early draft process smoke in order to get a team to trade up. That's what that is. So I'm not
for what?
They want a team that's picking in the top 10 wants a team picking in the back end of the first round to freak out and think, "Oh my God, we're going to miss out on our guy. We have to trade up." That's what they're hoping for.
Somebody's guy in the first round? He's not a first-round quarterback.
He's not, but there's going to be a couple of teams that like him and then are going to get baited into trading up so they don't miss out on getting him.
I'm going to tell you right now for you, and I can't say it because I know somebody's close to the door and he's 4 years old. ASS. Can you say that word out loud?
Ass. You just said dog shit.
All right. Well.
All right. Okay. Outside of Will Howard, who else you got?
I'm going to throw this out there to you. I know 1,000% you're going to hate it and you're going to call me a homer. I think Garrett Nussmeier.
I knew you were going to do this.
I think he's going to throw for 35 plus touchdowns. And because of the way that their schedule lines up, I don't know, Joe. I don't know. I think that Brian Kelly, this is what I believe. I think from an offensive line, they got 2 first-round guys that they have there. They're going to run the football a lot more effectively. But, Joe, the last 2 times that we've seen him in significant action, he threw for 300 yards and a half against Georgia, and he threw for almost 400 yards in a bowl game. He's going to put up stats. Now, the problem is going to be that I don't think LSU is going to win enough to get him over the hump there. He's going to make dumb decisions late. And you don't see guys, okay, historically from the same school win it back to back. So for that reason, I do think he may be out there. Go ahead.
My only quick take on that, I think the more realistic thing for him is to play as good as Carson Beck did in 2023.
I agree.
It's a lot of similarities. Older guys that have not really played that much.
I agree
that
with
have been around and are on good, quality teams and good offenses. I'm not saying that Garrett Nussmeier is not going to be good. I don't want to dip my toe into the Heisman convo with him yet because I just think there's a lot of variables, new offensive coordinator, all of that stuff.
Jesse, he beat 2 first-round corners. Who was the guy that was the corner for Georgia that year? Who was a first-round pick?
Keely Ringo wasn't a first-round pick, but he sucks. But, yeah, he cooked Keely Ringo.
Twice.
And Kamari Lassiter is going to be a top 50 pick.
That was the Malik Neighbors, who's going to be a potential top 10 pick. That was the Malik Neighbors come-out game. All right. Here is my big sleeper. You ready? I do have more than Howard, more than Nussmeier. I am really high on Miller Moss from USC.
Really?
Yes. I went back and watched the game today. Can I tell you what I think? Can I tell you something? Joe, do you have those times where there's a better player, but a team is better? Okay. Even though like you lose Caleb Williams, but the team gets better after he leaves. I think Miller Moss runs Lincoln Riley's system better than Caleb Williams does. And because of that, I think that they are going to surprise some people. I don't think that they win a lot in the Big Ten. Joe, he's going to put up ungodly numbers.
I just think, though, for a guy it's a lopsided roster. Their defense is still not in a position for them to win. A guy like that has to put up – they're going to lose 4 games. You have to put up Jaden Daniels type numbers in order to win the award. And I just don't know if Miller Moss –
Are you 1,000% sure that he can't? Not rushing. He can't do it rushing.
Well, that's why he's not going to have any of those rushing totals. And the rushing totals is what propelled Jaden Daniels further. the whole argument for Jane Daniels was supported even greater because he had all the throwing stats, and on top of that, he had the stats of one of the best running backs in the country.
He legitimately stopped Will Howard from transferring there. He pushed out Malachi Nelson. The kid can play.
I'm not saying he's going to be bad. It would take a lot for a guy like that.
Did you feel like Miller Moss? Did you feel like USC's offense was more in sync when he was there versus Caleb Williams? Yes or no?
A little bit, but the counter to this though is it is still an important piece for the Heisman Trophy. In order to not be on one of the best top 5 teams in the country to win the award, you have to be like Jaden Daniels. Miller Moss is not Jaden Daniels.
No.
So for
nobody in college football this year is Jaden Daniels.
For him to even get to the podium, he has to win 10 plus games. And I just don't think it's realistic in the first year in the Big Ten in a new conference where they've never played these types of teams before, with as bad of a defenses that they're going to have, and a lot of guys that they had offensively a couple of guys moving on to the NFL. There's a lot working against USC.
All right. Can I end it with one that you don't want to talk about, but we have to?
Go ahead.
I'm throwing a lot of like crazy names out of here. Okay. Because you took all my other ones. I really think Carson Beck's a front runner. Just being honest. Okay. Like I think Carson Beck is the front runner for the Heisman. Can we have a conversation about Shedeur Sanders?
I think it's plausible. I really do.
Because he's going to be in conversations. I do think that they're better in the Big 12. I do think they're better as a team. Okay, even though I went stupid on Dion last week or whenever it was, and I don't like some of the things that they do, okay, Shedeur's going to put up a crap load of stats, man. He's got a lot of pieces around him. Amarian Miller, the freshman wide receiver last year. I mean, dude, he's got pieces. He's got a better offensive line around him. He's got some running backs. He's got all the ability. He got Travis Hunter, who, by the way, Joe, if Travis Hunter stays healthy, then what? If that dude if the kid has 7 picks and 10 receiving touchdowns on the year, is he not going to be at the podium?
I think that Travis Hunter has the more realistic shot out of the two of them. And I think that Travis Hunter.
No. You know why he won't? You know why he doesn't? Because Shedeur moves the meter more than Travis Hunter does.
I don't. Well, in a way, but Jabril Peppers' numbers when he was a part of the conversation really weren't like anything crazy. They were really good, and it was unique.
I think dominated like Chase Young did.
Right, and I think that Travis Hunter, if he outperforms, that's the meter. If he outperforms Jabril Peppers' numbers and he stays healthy the whole year, yes, there is a path for him to get there. I just think a lot of times with quarterbacks, it's hard for me to fully invest in those guys winning the Heisman unless they're on a really good team. And as we've said, Colorado's not a top 10 team.
No, they're not. They're not. But look, he completed 70% of his passes last year. He threw 27 touchdowns. Joe, the biggest thing for me for a guy like Shedeur, he threw 3 picks.
Yeah,
I mean, on a really, really bad team, okay, he was a really good decision maker. Cut all the bullshit aside. When he gets on the field, he can play. The question is, can they get to 7 or 8 wins? Can they get to 9 wins? Joe, if he gets to 9 wins, he can win it.
That's a big if. It's a really big if.
Massive if.
The other part of this too, though, is that kind of the media makes this decision. You know, the media really plays into this decision.
And
so
they're going to eat up all
the
content. Joe, let me tell you something. Shedeur Sanders, stay with me. He could win 8. He could be the first Heisman Trophy winner in the modern era to win 8 games and win the award.
I think it's him being in the convo, it makes a lot of sense to me because there's just going to be so much media coverage. It's going to be like last year, but on steroids with the amount of coverage that team gets. Because of that is going to give he is going to get a boost on his performance, even if it's not, and he's a great football player. So when he plays great, he's going to get a little bit of a bump that's going to help aid him into that convo of getting to the podium and maybe being that third or fourth guy.
Well, let me just say this, okay? They got North Dakota State in week 1. I know that you're an FCS guy. They're going to beat North Dakota State. They go to Nebraska, and I'm going to be honest with you. They're going to beat Nebraska.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Colorado State. They're going to beat Baylor. I don't think they can beat Central Florida nor Kansas State. They can beat Arizona. They can beat Cincinnati. They can beat Texas Tech. The back part of their schedule is really tough. They got Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma State. That part's really tough on the back end. But, Joe, when we're talking about these conversations, okay, there's a very realistic scenario that going into, the Utah game, they could be 7-1.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.